Chapter 25. Tan Tan didn't understand what Chu Yang meant when he saw that Chu Yang had suddenly become so serious. But he still nodded in confusion. Chu Yang smiled slightly and carried Shi Qianshan with Tan Tan, walking through the door. Shi Qianshan was still unconscious. He did not know anything about what happened afterwards. He also did not know that after this battle, he had become famous among the younger brothers of Beyond the Heavens sect. After Liu Yunyang and the others returned, they immediately spread the news. Shi Qianshan had hidden his strength well, and was a formidable opponent of this generation's 10 great brother. As a junior brother, Chu Yang could defeat Chu Ping, then as a senior brother, Shi Qianshan. What about him? After seeing Chu Ping's injuries, the 8th-generation younger brothers who were eyeing the position of the 10 great brothers covetously immediately listed Shi Qianshan as a dangerous person. Fire, theft, Shi Qianshan, 3 defenses. The muddle-headed Shi Qianshan would never have thought that he would actually become a big shot of Beyond the Heavens sect while he was muddle-headed. It could be seen that nothing was absolute in this world, and a person's fame was full of opportunities. Who knew when his fame would spread far and wide? Chu Yang's keen intuition had already sensed that there was definitely someone watching this scene in the bamboo forest. Although he did not know who it was, he was certain that it was the upper echelon of Beyond the Heavens sect. His master Meng Ran was definitely there, and he was only one of them. Therefore, when Chu Yang said those thoughtless words to Tan Tan, the meaning of those words was naturally to warn Tan Tan, but in the ears of those 3 people, it had a different meaning. Beyond the Heavens sect could not be supported by these useless people. But I, Chu Yang, can do it. Since he had decided to seize the position of the eldest brother and enter 7 Shades congregation grounds to obtain the Calamity Sword, then his words and actions must be known by the upper echelons. Otherwise, he could only be like in his previous life, waiting until 4 years later when Beyond the Heavens sect was destroyed to obtain it. What was the point of that? Since he had openly entered the eyes of the upper echelons, then even if he wanted to be low-key, he could not. He might as well make his intentions clear, pat his chest, and say, to revitalize Beyond the Heavens sect and protect the sect, if not me, then who? Crazy. Yes, this time I will be crazy. What? Chu Yang and Tan Tan went in for a long time. Then, the bamboo forest slowly swayed. Then, 3 figures miraculously appeared in the purple sea. Each of them had a pensive look in their eyes. Chu Yang's last few words seemed to be implying something. Meng Ran moved and silently appeared in front of the 2 of them. He smiled and said, "Eldest senior brother, 7th senior brother, you came to the purple bamboo garden in such a low-key manner. You really surprised me." One of them was the sect master of Beyond the Heavens sect, Wu Yunliang, and the other was the master of Dream Cloud's Peak, Kong Jingfeng. But Kong Jingfeng's face is still pale. There's a hole in his crotch, and the wind is blowing in. This peak master of Dream Clouds had no choice but to clamp his legs together. It's a weird position. We should be the ones who are truly shocked. Wu Yunliang snorted and said, "Junior Marshal Brother Oh, it's fine if you keep a low profile, but you didn't even tell me that you taught such a talented junior marshal brother. Just now, I was almost scared to death by your disciple." Kong Jingfeng nodded repeatedly, showing his approval of Wu Yunliang's words. He added, "Especially me, I was scared out of my wits." There was a hint of hidden bitterness in his words. Chu Yang's performance just now, no matter what, was enough to surprise these 2 experts of Beyond the Heavens sect. It was even shocking. The fleeting snow cloud footwork that was as agile as a swimming dragon, as graceful as a swan, as the fleeting snow cloud footwork that came and went like a ghost, as well as the killing blow that came and went like a ghost. His calm handling of the situation, and his ability to grasp the right timing, all of these made these 2 important people of Beyond the Heavens sect extremely surprised. The 2 of them asked themselves, if they had the same martial power as Chu Yang and were in the same situation today, they would not have been able to do what Chu Yang did so easily. This junior martial brother of Meng Ran's was incredible. Meng Ran smiled bitterly and said, "You guys were only shocked to the point of almost falling to the ground." Junior martial brother Oh, on the other hand, was so shocked that his teeth were about to fall to the ground. "You guys see, my eyes are red, but I still can't believe that such a monster appeared in my sect." As he said this, he rolled his eyes with a gloomy face. Wu Yunliang and Kong Jingfeng both laughed. Suddenly, Kong Jingfeng was shocked as he understood Meng Ran's meaning. You are saying that your disciples' martial arts were not taught by you? Meng Ran rolled his eyes. He wanted to deny it, but in the end, he sighed and said, I taught him all this, but even I am afraid. Only then did the two turn pale with fright. Since Chu Yang was able to learn something that others could not, then there was only one explanation: talent. Unparalleled talent. Wu Yunliang originally thought that Meng Ran had grasped the true cultivation method of the fleeting snow cloud footwork and was full of joy. Hearing Meng Ran's words, he was stunned. After a while, he stuttered, could it be that the fleeting snow cloud footwork? Meng Ran nodded and said, I did not learn it myself. Wu Yunliang and Kong Jingfeng were both stunned. Could it be that he learned it himself? Wu Yunliang twirled his beard. His hand trembled, almost pulling out a strand of hair. I don't know. Meng Ran sighed, but this disciple of mine is extremely intelligent. I don't know if he learned it himself. The two of them were shocked speechless. Meng Ran spread out his hands and shrugged his shoulders, making a helpless expression. Normally, the three of them were very serious in front of the other disciples, but in private, they were very relaxed. No matter what, these three disciples of yours. Wu Yunliang pondered for a while, then said, they really have an amazing talent. Saying this, he smiled bitterly and said, with this guy's cultivation, he definitely would not have noticed that I was peeping here. But his last few words were clearly directed at me, the sect leader. Until now, I still do not understand why it was like this. Yes, they have a genius, but they also have a trash. Meng Ran said this with a strange expression. He did not like Shi Qianshan, but he did not like Shi Qianshan's way of doing things. It did not mean that he did not like Shi Qianshan as a person. In Meng Ran's heart, he did not have any hope for Shi Qianshan. Defeating the enemy fair and square is a victory, but using underhanded tactics to kill the enemy, is that not a victory? The only difference is the process. Maybe Shi Qianshan can walk the path of Jiang whose underhanded schemes? But today, Shi Qianshan could have fought, but he was afraid of the opponent and did not fight back. This made Meng Ran's last hope for him extinguish. A hero can be low-key, but a coward will never become a strong person. Trash. You mean Shi Qianshan? Wu Yunliang's eyes flashed with disdain. He smiled non-committally. It seemed that this Beyond the Heavens sect leader did not have a good impression of Shi Qianshan. Meng Ran sighed slightly. Beyond the Heavens sect has nearly 800 disciples. Which sect does not have a few unworthy disciples? Junior martial brother, you do not need to take it to heart. After the first round of elimination, talents will always stand out. Mediocre or trash, they will all become a pile of bones. Wu Yunliang's eyes were deep. He slowly said, Junior martial brother, having Chu Yang as your disciple is enough to make up for all your regrets. Your second brother Chu Yang's methods are ruthless, decisive, and meticulous. What's rarest is that he's able to say that it's not right. Moreover, he's able to speak with conviction and confidence. He's a rare talent. He's not simple. Kong Jingfeng nodded deeply, expressing his agreement. Today, the two of them came together to see what Li Jinsong's brothers were going to do. However, their main purpose was to see the hole that tripped Li Jian up. Once again, he calculated the position to be completely sure. Was it true that Beyond the Heavens sect had produced such a genius, whose mind and methods were all first class? After listening to Wu Qianqian's report, they already suspected that Chu Yang was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? But for an 8th-generation disciple to have such a keen eye and rich experience, the two of them still did not believe it. That was why they came to investigate. But today, seeing Chu Yang deal with Chu Ping, the two of them understood. There was no need to investigate. It was definitely him. This guy called Chu Yang was definitely a dangerous person. The current Beyond the Heavens sect had internal and external troubles. They really needed talents, especially talents from the younger generation. That was why Wu Yunliang valued Chu Yang. And what Chu Yang wanted was this kind of respect. Otherwise, why would he spend so much effort on it? Chapter 26. When Meng Ran heard Wu Yunliang praising Chu Yang, he was feeling complacent. But when he heard Wu Yunliang's words, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Eldest martial brother, you are really in the mood. At this time, you are still talking nonsense. You can't make me cry, right?" Wu Yunliang's mouth seemed to be witty, but his face was very serious. He slowly said, "This Chu Yang, you need to train him well. Our Beyond the Heavens sect has too few people like him." Meng Ran nodded and sighed. "There is nothing we can do about it. Ever since we were stripped of our title as the Great Zhao Empire's national protector sect, we have lost a lot of strength. We have no one in the court, the government discriminates against us, and the other sects bully us. Even if we have a few talents, they are either taken away or killed on the spot. Beyond the Heavens sect is already in a precarious situation. If we cannot protect our own talents, I am afraid that after our generation, Beyond the Heavens sect will no longer exist." Meng Ran's words were a serious reminder and warning. Wu Yunliang's gloomy face revealed a bitter smile. He looked at Kong Jingfeng and said with a smile, "You are the youngest. Are you afraid that we will sell off your favorite disciples?" Meng Ran snorted and said, "We have to be careful. The current Beyond the Heavens sect is no longer the same as before." Wu Yunliang sighed and said, "I know that you have always been dissatisfied with the martial arts competition of the sect's younger disciples. It is true that Beyond the Heavens sect is declining day by day. Holding this kind of competition is undoubtedly exposing our outstanding disciples to the enemy. It increases the chances of them dying, but this is something we have to do." Meng Ran clasped his hands behind his back and snorted softly, "You just want to maintain the customs of Beyond the Heavens sect. If you cannot make up your mind to change, what is the point of us talking about it?" Meng Ran had always been calm. Wu Yunliang had only heard such a cold tone a few times in the dozens of years that they had been in the same sect. Hearing him say this, he knew that junior martial brother was dissatisfied. Slightly sighing, Wu Yunliang said seriously, "If I want to change, it is only a matter of a few words from me. The reason why I still maintain the sect's rules is because I want to refine real gold in a fire." Wu Yunliang's face became cold. He slowly said, "The 8th generation of Beyond the Heavens sect has 800 disciples. Our 7th generation has 70. There were less than 10 people left in the 1st generation of masters and martial uncles. As for the 5th generation ancestral master, the only one left is martial granduncle." The muscles on his face twitched as he clenched his teeth and said, "If my plan succeeds, then of the 1,000 people of Beyond the Heavens sect, there will not be more than 100 people left. And those people will be the cornerstone of our Beyond the Heavens sect's glory. I don't want trash, I don't want mediocrity." Wu Yunliang slowly paced back and forth. His voice was low and deep, but it was like thunder and lightning striking down on people's souls. "Even I, Wu Yunliang, will sacrifice myself when the time comes. The decline of a sect is not a reason for the suppression of various parties. Our Beyond the Heavens sect is an example of this." Wu Yunliang said seriously, "But the rise of a sect requires blood and fire." "Rise from the ashes." Meng Ran sighed. "These outstanding disciples, in the eyes of the enemy, will naturally bring them countless dangers, but at the same time, countless opportunity. Only by breaking through all of this can they become pillars of the sect." Wu Yunliang said casually, "If we can't break through and are completely annihilated, then there will be no Beyond the Heavens sect in this world. I don't want to struggle at death's door, I want to dance alone." Kong Jingfeng nodded deeply and said, "Eldest martial brother is right. Living an ignoble life is not as good as dying heroically in battle." Meng Ran's eyes suddenly narrowed. "Eldest martial brother, the decline of our sect is related to the imperial court of Great Zhao. Now that you have such a plan to revive our sect, doesn't that mean, that's right?" Wu Yunliang's face was gloomy. "In these 10 years, when I was not in the sect, I was always in Iron Cloud Nation. Even if Great Zhao suppressed us, we might not have to rely on Great Zhao. Great Zhao might not be able to last forever." Meng Ran's heart shook violently. Looking at Kong Jingfeng's calm face, he immediately knew that Kong Jingfeng also knew about this. "Eldest martial brother, this is too risky. Meng Ran took a deep breath. His face was full of worry. Wealth comes from danger. Wu Yunliang said emotionlessly, for a sect to rise for the first time, even though it is difficult, it is not impossible. But after their glory, they declined, and when they wanted to rise again, it was even more difficult. We must be prepared for the destruction of our sect. Meng Ran sighed deeply and did not say anything else. 3 days ago, I already sent my younger martial brother to secretly take Chen Qian, Shui Yi, and Mu Shong to Iron Cloud Nation. First, there was something to do there. Second, it was also the first time for Chen Qian, Shui Yi, and Mu Shong to practice in Jianghu. Just think of it as probing the situation. Kong Jingfeng was shocked. Eldest martial brother, how could you let Chen Qian go? I knew you would stop me if you knew. That's why I didn't tell you. Wu Yunliang said casually, 3 days have already passed. Even if you want to go back, you can't do it. Kong Jingfeng anxiously said, I have nothing to say if my younger martial brother took Shui Yi and Mu Shong. But why did you let Chen Qian go? This trip is so dangerous. Plus, all the great sects are already eyeing us. What if? That is also her fate. Wu Yunliang said coldly, a few days ago, you told me about our sect's female disciples. I was thinking about this matter. Letting Chen Qian go is also to test the horses in Jianghu. Testing the horses in Jianghu. There are so many female disciples in Beyond the Heavens sect. There are many who are not any less beautiful than Chen Qian. But why did you have to send Chen Qian? Kong Jingfeng said angrily, she is your biological daughter. My daughter is my own daughter. Don't tell me that the other female disciples in the sect are all bastards. Do they not have parents to raise them? Are they not the treasures of their parents? Wu Yunliang said heavily, are my, Wu Yunliang's, daughters so delicate? Kong Jingfeng angrily stomped his feet. He looked at his eldest martial brother with eyes that seemed to be spitting fire, but she is not only your daughter, she is also our niece. You should not let her take this risk. Because she is my daughter, she has a responsibility to the other female disciples in the sect. Wu Yunliang said coldly, my daughter is not the emperor's princess. If I let her hide in the back and let the other female disciples use their lives to pave the way for her, then I would rather not have this daughter. Beyond the Heavens sect is bathing in fire. The fire is slowly burning. To rise again, there is no price that cannot be paid. There is no one that cannot be sacrificed. Including me, including you, and of course, including my daughter. After Wu Yunliang finished speaking, he turned around. His back was as straight as a spear. But on the side where the two could not see, the muscles in the corners of his eyes twitched. I hope Chen Qian can return safely. As a father, sending his own daughter out on such a dangerous mission, how much pressure must his heart bear? Am I really so heartless? But I am not only the father of a daughter, I am also the sect master of 1,000 disciples of Beyond the Heavens sect. When it is time to sacrifice, even if all the disciples are sacrificed, I must do it. But if I can only sacrifice one, then I will sacrifice my daughter, because I am the sect master of Beyond the Heavens sect. Wu Yunliang gritted his teeth. His cheeks puffed up a little, but he quickly regained his composure. He did not turn around. His voice was a little hoarse as he said, youngest, you must teach Chu Yang well. That fleeting snow cloud steps, that fleeting snow cloud steps. He paused and pondered for a while. Then he slowly said, let him practice well. If he has any tricks, he can learn them himself. You two master and disciple can learn them together. But do not let a third party know. Chapter 27. You only see the benefits, but not the pros and cons. Before the sect is cleaned up, there will be too many spies. If this information is leaked, then it will not be a matter of cultivation. I am afraid that our ultimate skill will become a weapon for the enemy to use against us. Wu Yunliang said casually, before the dust settles, you must not leak this information. You'd better create another set of footwork for him to confuse. Yes. Meng Chao Rant's heart shivered. For Wu Yunliang to say this, it meant that the situation at Beyond the Heavens sect was extremely serious. This was enough to prove that his previous guesses were too optimistic. Confuse. Confuse who? Right now, outsiders do not know. The only ones who know are the disciples of second martial brother. But they still need to confuse. Also, Chu Yang's 7 shades absolute god palm, how did he cultivate the yin extreme cold chi? This matter is really surprising. However, do not let him relax. Wu Yun Liang pondered and said slowly, wait until he reaches a certain level of cultivation. Then let him enter 7 shades congregation grounds to increase his cultivation. Even though your little brother is a genius, his cultivation is still too low. For now, he will not be of any use. You must be aware of this. Meng Chao Ran nodded thoughtfully. Junior martial brother Meng, I originally had a plan. I saw that your disciple Shi Qian Shan is very scheming. He is a suitable candidate. But now, it seems that Shi Qian Shan is not very useful. But this Chu Yang. Wu Yun Liang smiled, I have a great use for him. A great use. Meng Chao Ran raised his eyebrows. His eyes became sharp. Even in Iron Cloud, we do not have a foundation. The sect needs someone to enter Iron Cloud and act as a spy. Wu Yun Liang said seriously, Chu Yang, looking at his performance today, he is without a doubt a suitable candidate. How about we use him as a spy? Meng Chao Ran was stunned. He did not speak for a long time. After a while, he said, this is without a doubt a good opportunity, but it is also very dangerous. In each of these countries, there are as many experts as there are clouds. If we are discovered, it will be a disaster. Chu Yang is still young. I hope senior martial brother will carefully consider this matter. If you don't experience wind and rain, how can you become a talent? Wu Yun Liang said, if you always fight with your back against the river, if you don't take big risks, how can you reap the greatest rewards? Therefore, you can rest assured about one thing. The other brothers can be exposed, but Chu Yang won't. After Wu Yun Liang finished speaking, he called out to Kong Jing Feng and the two of them bid farewell to Meng Chao Ran. The long figure slowly disappeared. Meng Chao Ran stood in front of the purple bamboo garden in disappointment. The 3 figures looked somewhat heavy. Meng Chao Ran let out a long sigh. His eyes were filled with worry as he muttered, eldest martial brother, there are some things that cannot be done by the strength of one sect of Beyond the Heavens sect. What could an insignificant Beyond the Heavens sect do between the 2 countries? Taking a risk out of desperation was an act of helplessness. Fighting with one's back to the river was a taboo. If you are not careful, you will be smashed to pieces. Don't overreach yourself. Beyond the Heavens sect can no longer withstand such a huge upheaval. Meng Chao Ran could faintly feel that in this world, there was a huge whirlpool. And Beyond the Heavens sect was at the center of this whirlpool. It could be destroyed at any time, and this whirlpool was actually being pushed forward by Beyond the Heavens sect itself. They were even sparing no effort. Within 10,000 miles of lower 3 heavens, there were 3 countries. Any further and they would be far away from the scope of this battle. Among these 3 countries, the Great Zhao Empire lived up to its name. Its territory was the most vast. The power of the country was enormous and its population was also relatively rich. It was dominating one area and was gradually encroaching on the surrounding areas. There was a faint aura of wanting to unify the world. The other 2 countries were Iron Cloud Nation and Limitless Nation. Even though these 2 countries' strength could be considered strong, they were far inferior to Great Zhao. The target of Great Zhao's annexation was precisely these 2 countries. Territorial battles frequently broke out at the borders of the 3 countries. At this moment, in the capital of Iron Cloud Nation, there were 4 travel-worn people and 4 riders standing in front of Iron Cloud Citadel. 1 old man, 2 young men, and a young woman with a black veil covering her face. All 4 of them had bloodstains on their bodies. Looking at each other, that old man let out a long sigh and said, finally, we are here. Qian Qian, how are you? His voice revealed a sense of relief. I am fine. Wu Qian Qian's eyes revealed fatigue as she shook her head. This time, there were too many interceptions along the way. Our whereabouts should be kept a secret. This should not have happened. This is somewhat abnormal. This old man was the master of Beyond the Heavens sects treading on Cloud's Peak, Bao Quang Lei. Bao, this was a relatively rare surname. Bao Quang Lei was one of Wu Yun Liang's younger brothers. He was a courageous and resourceful person. His actions were steady, he dared to fight, and he handled matters flawlessly. His personality was not in line with his name. No matter what, we are finally here. Wu Chen smiled. The four people looked at each other. There were some things that needed to be said. There must be a traitor in the sect. Moreover, their status was not low. Let's enter the city. Bao Quang Lei's expression darkened. Then, he raised his spirits and waved his hand. Following the flow of people into the city, they arrived in front of a palace. On a plaque made entirely of silver, there were 3 shining golden words, 1000 Autumns Manor. 1000 Autumns Manor was the crown. Manor of Iron Cloud Nation. The Crown Prince of Iron Cloud Nation lived here. After the announcement, the 4 people entered 1000 Autumns Manor. Under the guidance of a servant, they arrived at the main hall. In the middle of the hall, there was a comfortable chair. A handsome young man wearing a soft yellow robe was reclining on it. He held a book in his hand and seemed to be reading hard. His long eyebrows reached his temples. His face was like a jade crown. A purple jade crown tied up his black hair. This young man was somewhat thin. He seemed to be too weak to even stand up to a gust of wind. His hand holding the book was somewhat slender and dry, but it was very stable. His face was filled with a gentle aura. He looked very quiet, very peaceful, and even very weak, making people involuntarily want to protect him. But once he got closer, he would feel that this weak and quiet youth, just sitting there, made people feel like he was the bright moon in the sky, too high to reach. It was as if the power of life and death under the heavens was in the hands of that pair of thin and dry hand. After the servant announced their arrival, the young man put down the book in his hand and slowly turned his head. Looking at the 4 people, his face revealed a smile as if the spring breeze had thawed. He said gently, "The 4 of you have come a long way. Please sit." Bao Quang Lei cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks for the seat." He led Wu Chen and the other 2 to sit down. This young man was the Crown Prince of Iron Cloud Nation. Tai Bu Tian. At this moment, his eyes swept over the 4 people. Suddenly, he smiled and raised his eyebrows. Invisibly, a murderous aura leaked out. He said lightly, "Was this journey not peaceful?" "Not bad. Along the way, every step was dangerous." Bao Quang Lei sat calmly. They were people of sects and did not belong to the imperial court. When they saw the crown prince, they did not need to greet him. However, Shui Yimeng and Qin Mushong were somewhat nervous. "Haha. It seems that someone is working in the dark." Tai Bu Tian smiled faintly. As he laughed, his eyes slowly narrowed. He stood up with his hands behind his back and said slowly, "But the 4 of you can rest assured. I promise that this kind of thing will not happen in Iron Cloud Nation, not even once." Although he was thin and not very tall, with his hands behind his back and his long eyebrows raised, his eyes indifferently swept around. There was an awe-inspiring aura of a monarch. It was as if the entire heavens and earth were being trampled under his feet. Bao Quang Lei's heart shook. He finally understood the decision of his eldest senior brother. Just by looking at the Crown Prince of Iron Cloud standing there, one could tell that he was definitely a hero. Chapter 28. The 4 of you will stay here for the time being. Tomorrow morning, I will personally report to my father. Regarding this matter, once my father has made a decision, we will immediately begin. Tai Bu Tian said with a smile. Just a moment ago, he still had the aura of a heavenly sword, but with a smile, his entire temperament seemed to have changed. He was kind and gentle, approachable, and made people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. He did not even need to use any special methods to win people's hearts, but this kind of calmness would make people want to die for him. Yes. Bao Quang Lei's heart trembled. He could not help but raise his evaluation of this Tai Yun Tai by another level. Although this grand elder was young, he was not simple at all. In his life, no matter if it was young or old, there was no one who could compare to this person. No wonder he was hailed as the #1 genius of the lower three heavens, the only natural-born king. Before meeting Tai Bu Tian, Bao Kuanglei did not think much of this, saying, "In this world, what natural-born king?" It was just that he came from a good background, received better education than the average person, studied the arts of the emperor since childhood, and accumulated his aura over a long period of time. As for the #1 genius, was there a lack of geniuses in this world? But at this moment, he believed it. That kind of elegance in his bones, the majesty in his soul, and the natural demeanor of a king, made Bao Kuanglei, a fierce person of the Jianghu, tremble in his soul. At this moment, the purple bamboo garden of Beyond the Heavens sect was in full swing. Beyond the Heavens sect, early morning. Tan Tan was lying on the ground in a tie shape, panting heavily. He rolled his eyes and said, Chu Yang, I admit that you are more handsome than me, okay? You have been too ruthless these days, right? You have almost drilled me to death." These days, whenever Chu Yang got up to practice, he would drag Tan Tan along. Every time Tan Tan was half dead tired. After a few days, Tan Tan had reached the point where he would tremble in fear whenever he saw Chu Yang. Chu Yang was very precise every time. He knew exactly how long Tan Tan needed to practice to reach the limit of his body. Every time after practice, he would make sure that Tan Tan could not stand up with his own strength without harming his body. Now, every time Tan Tan saw him, it was like seeing a ghost. In the beginning, he was still bragging and narcissistic, but now he didn't even have the time to be narcissistic. Chu Yang took a deep breath, stopped practicing and stood up. In these 20 days, he hadn't slacked off at all in his cultivation. Currently, he had already raised his cultivation level to martial disciple. He was only one step away from becoming a martial warrior. Feeling the changes in his body, Chu Yang smiled. Only by becoming a martial warrior could one truly begin to temper one's body. Before becoming a martial warrior, if one were to forcefully temper their body, regardless of whether it was their bones or internal organs, they would be severely damaged due to excessive tempering. This principle should still be a misconception in the current lower three heavens, right? Therefore, there was a saying circulating in the lower three heavens, Zhongqian Qiu's rule, martial artists Jiao. He was talking about this matter. It meant that people who practiced martial arts could not live past the age of 10. Although this sentence had the meaning of suppressing martial arts, and this saying was also somewhat arbitrary, every year there were many martial disciples who desperately cultivated in order to raise their cultivation level as soon as possible. However, due to excessive exhaustion, their physical strength was overdrawn, and their bodies could not bear it. Although their cultivation level had increased at that time, when they were about 50 years old, this drawback would be exposed. And once it was exposed, the body was basically destroyed, and there was no way to save it. The time when a martial artist's body suffered the greatest damage was when they were building their foundation as a martial disciple. Only one step away. And the cultivation condition of Calamity Sword's heavenly tribulation divine technique was to become a martial warrior. In fact, it wasn't just Calamity Sword. Even some of the techniques of the lower three heavens were clearly written on the title page. Those below the martial warrior level are not allowed to cultivate. With a move of his dantian, the new energy that Chu Yang had painstakingly cultivated in the afternoon was swallowed by Calamity Sword. After a while, it was spat out. Although the amount was much less, it was extremely pure. Although this kind of energy was not as pure as Xiantian energy, it was much purer and more condensed than Xiantian energy. It was a world of difference compared to ordinary acquired energy. These days, every time he took a step forward, he would feel Calamity Sword move inexplicably in his body. Over time, Chu Yang had become accustomed to it. The purple crystal jade essence hanging on his neck did not react. Regarding this purple crystal jade essence, Chu Yang was somewhat speechless. The first time he used this purple crystal jade essence to recover his physical strength, the Calamity Sword spirit in his dantian suddenly rushed up. Before Chu Yang could enjoy it, it suddenly cut off the connection. Chu Yang tried several times, but the Calamity Sword spirit cut him off. It clearly wanted him to rely on his own strength to cultivate, and would not let him borrow external forces. However, the Calamity Sword spirit did not care if he used it to recover his physical strength when facing an enemy. Just like when he dealt with Chu Ping, the Calamity Sword spirit did not react at all. But after the battle, he was not allowed to use it. In the face of such an impartial and overbearing supervisor, Chu Yang could only submit. The idea of using the purple crystal jade essence for cultivation was extinguished from his heart. Turning his head to look at Tan Tan's embarrassed appearance, Chu Yang almost laughed out loud. Helplessly, he said, "Okay, you should rest." When Tan Tan heard these words, it was as if the Emperor's grace was vast and mighty. He almost shed tears of gratitude. He got up with great difficulty, and crawled to the side on all fours. Then, he sighed comfortably. On the field, Chu Yang continued to practice his sword drawing and sheathing of the sword. It was a simple and boring movement. But, Chu Yang practiced it with the greatest passion and full of concentration every time. The sun slowly rose from the east. Chu Yang's head and body were steaming hot. Beads of sweat dripped down from his head, and fell to the ground. Tan Tan finally recovered. But, he looked at Chu Yang's movements, and slowly saw that he was in a trance. Chu Yang had been repeating the same movements. But, Tan Tan found that Chu Yang was doing this movement hundreds of times. And, it was different every time. It seemed as if he was adjusting it. It looked a little awkward at first. But, it became smoother and smoother later on. In the end, it formed a light curtain. Drawing the sword, sheathing the sword, sheathing the sword. The cycle continued, and the voice gradually became softer. It wasn't obvious, but it did become softer little by little. "Chu Yang, your arm is swollen." Tan Tan looked at Chu Yang for a long time. Suddenly, he found that Chu Yang's elbow and shoulder were abnormally thick. He couldn't help but shout. Chu Yang's face remained unchanged. He was indifferent and expressionless. He continued to practice this movement. He said indifferently, "Is it swollen? It will go away as you practice. Tan Tan, it's swollen. If you wait for it to go away, then it will be too late. But, when you get used to this kind of strength, the swelling will go away. When the swelling goes away, then it will be time for you to improve." Ah! Tan Tan was stunned. He suddenly felt ashamed. He felt that he had recovered a lot of strength. He stood up and continued to practice. Meng Chao Ran stood quietly in the purple bamboo forest. Looking at the two martial brothers practicing, the corners of his mouth revealed a trace of gratification. The sound of groaning came from the room. It was Shi Qianshan suffering. He had been lying on the bed for 20 days. Chu Ping and the others were ruthless. That day, they broke Shi Qianshan's ribs and thighs. For at least 3 months, Shi Qianshan could not practice martial arts. For half a year, he could not use martial arts. But half a year later, the ranking competition of Beyond the Heavens sect was almost over. This injury was tantamount to destroying Shi Qianshan's future in Beyond the Heavens sect. The torment of the physical body could never be compared to the pain of the heart. Therefore, Shi Qianshan was filled with hatred. Strangely, he did not hate the people who hurt him, but he hated Chu Yang the most. In Shi Qianshan's heart, if it was not for Chu Yang, he would definitely have a meteoric rise. Chapter 29. Shi Qianshan's intuition was very accurate. His current miserable state was entirely caused by Chu Yang. During this period of time, Chu Yang took care of Shi Qianshan in every possible way. Every day, he would come to report to Shi Qianshan. "Eldest martial brother, how are you? I have broken through to the 5th level of martial disciple today. Eldest martial brother, I broke through to the 7th level today. I am now at the 7th level." These good news made Shi Qianshan feel like he was being pierced by thousands of arrows. His mood was extremely gloomy, and the recovery of his injuries was even slower. Even when his mood was extremely bad, his injuries showed signs of worsening. However, Shi Qianshan should not have hated Chu Yang, but also Meng Chao Ran and Tan Tan. He hated them to the bone. How could Chu Yang advance so quickly? It must be because Meng Chao Ran was biased. Master must have a miraculous elixir that could quickly increase a person's cultivation. After so many years, he did not give it to me, but gave it to Chu Yang. Thinking about this, Shi Qianshan's heart was burning with jealousy. In the end, he could not live under the same sky with Meng Chaoran. After that day, although Meng Chaoran's attitude was somewhat cold, he still took care of Shi Qianshan. Meng Chaoran did not hesitate to use his martial power to connect Shi Qianshan's meridians, to relieve his pain, and to find elixirs to help him recover. However, Shi Qianshan's hatred for the house extended to its crow. He even hated his master, who had treated him with great kindness. He actually hated him so much that he gnashed his teeth. Therefore, Shi Qianshan wanted revenge. Outside Shi Qianshan's room, there was a small pond. It was only half the size of a room, and about 10 feet deep. The spring water from the purple bamboo garden flowed through here, filling the pond, and then continued to flow downwards, forming a small stream. Therefore, the water in this pond was always clear, and the bottom could be seen. The water that Chu Yang and the others usually drank came from here. Now, Shi Qianshan was lying on the bed, trying his best to support his body. He quietly took out a paper bag from under the bed. Inside the bag was the soul-shattering powder. 5 kinds of strange poisons mixed together, colorless and tasteless. It was said that there was no cure. Putting it in the food, it was like a delicious condiment, stimulating people's appetite. Shi Qianshan's lips were trembling, and his fingers were also trembling. However, he still resolutely pulled over the candle at the head of the bed. His right hand slowly broke off a piece from the bottom. His face was sometimes red and sometimes pale, as if he was having an intense inner conflict. But his fingers didn't stop moving. He carefully wrapped the whole packet of soul-severing powder into a wax pill. Then, he hid the wax ball under his blanket. Since I've already been destroyed, how can I let you have it easy? In any case, I'm heavily injured. No matter what, even if everyone here dies, they won't suspect me. If I'm the only one left in Purple Bamboo Garden, the sect master will definitely give me preferential treatment out of consideration for our past relationship. That way, I still have a chance. I don't need to rely on you, Meng Chaoran. I can still get up. Die, all of you are already dead. Right now, Shi Qianshan's heart was already on the verge of madness. The sun slowly rose and hung above their heads. Shi Qianshan tilted his head and listened. Then, he clenched his teeth and flicked his finger. The wax ball flew out of his hand. He only heard a soft thump sound from outside. The wax ball had obviously fallen into the pond. Shi Qianshan let out a long sigh and slumped back onto the bed. His eyes flashed with guilt and shame. But what followed was an indescribable viciousness and madness. He clenched his teeth and tightly grasped the thin blanket on his body with his right hand. He used so much strength that he almost scratched a hole in the thin blanket. But he finally relaxed his body. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Water is running water. If the poison is put in it, it will be washed away early. If it's too late, the poison won't have enough time to disperse. According to the usual lunchtime, this time was just right. He calculated the time. After another quarter of an hour, he heard the sound of Tan Tan carrying a wooden bucket to fetch water. He hurriedly crawled back into the blanket, closed his eyes, and loudly groaned twice. After a long while, the sound of ding ding dang 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 could be heard. Tan Tan's strange humming sound could be heard. Then, a strong fragrance of food wafted out. Shi Qianshan silently and viciously laughed. Meng Chaoran, Tan Tan, and Chu Yang sat around the table. Looking at the tempting fragrance of the food on the table, Tan Tan's pair of eyes looked at his master. He felt even more hungry. As soon as Meng Chaoran opened his mouth, he would immediately start wolfing down the food. But Meng Chaoran looked at the food and frowned. The color of the food was the same as usual. The fragrance was also very strong. But it seemed a little too fragrant. It was a little strange. He immediately felt that something was wrong. Meng Chaoran pondered for a while. He just picked up the chopsticks, but then slowly put them down. He turned his head to look at Chu Yang. He couldn't help but feel moved. Chu Yang also turned his head to look at the food. He had a thoughtful look. Meng Chaoran couldn't help but feel a little surprised. He could feel it. This was the result of decades of Jianghu experience. Moreover, He had always been cautious. In addition, he had trained himself in countless life and death situations. Only then did he develop such a keen sense. If it was an ordinary person, how could they notice the unusual fragrance of the food? The more fragrant it was, the more they wanted to eat it. But how did Chu Yang notice it? He was only 10 years old. Moreover, he had never gone out before. How could he have such observation skills? Tan Tan, you cooked the food, right? Chu Yang calmly smiled and asked. Yes, you guys quickly eat. It's so fragrant. I can't help it. Tan Tan pitifully begged. Chu Yang thoughtfully looked at the rippling water outside. He turned his wrist and a mysterious crystal jade needle appeared in his hand. He poked it in the vegetable soup. The jade needle's tip suddenly changed color. It was a frightening blue. Tan Tan's face changed. He was about to cry out in alarm. Chu Yang didn't turn his head. It seemed that he had already expected his reaction. He reached out his hand and covered his mouth. His gaze was still fixed on the food. He said heavily, Tan Tan couldn't have poisoned it. Then it's the water. Meng Chao Ran's heart shook again. He had just thought of this. It was impossible for him to poison Tan Tan's food. Moreover, he had watched Tan Tan grow up. He had never even touched poison. So how could he have poisoned it? Meng Chao Ran took a deep breath. His chest heaved up and down. Suddenly, his face was filled with anger. He suddenly turned his head and looked in the direction of Shi Qianshan's room. I'll go. Chu Yang calmly said. You. What are you going to do? Meng Chao Ran's face was ugly. I'll make him satisfied. Chu Yang lightly said. Meng Chao Ran quietly lowered his eyes. He gently smiled and said, then you go. He paused and said, don't go too far. Give him a chance to explain. Maybe, maybe not. Although his voice was soft, it was full of bitterness and exhaustion. No matter how unfilial Shi Qianshan was, he was still a disciple that he had taught for 7 or 8 years. Chu Yang suggested that he would handle it. He fully understood Meng Chao Ran's feelings. Although Meng Chao Ran was angry for Shi Qianshan, he also felt gratified for Chu Yang's understanding. Chu Yang nodded. He took the food that he had prepared for Shi Qianshan and walked out. He walked into Shi Qianshan's room and said with a smile, eldest martial brother, it's time to eat. Isn't it always Tan Tan who brings food? Why is it you today? Shi Qianshan looked at him with surprise. Tan Tan is so tired today that he can't get up. Chu Yang kindly smiled and said, we are martial brothers. Isn't it the same if Tan Tan and I come? Eldest senior brother has racked his brains to take care of us for so long. His feelings are deep. It's time for me to repay him. Shi Qianshan snorted and said, my appetite is not good today. I don't want to eat. Put it aside first. What a joke. He clearly knew that there was poison in the food. Moreover, he had personally poisoned it. How could he eat it? On the other side, Meng Chao Ran, who had been concentrating his martial power to listen, could not help but snort. He still felt that it was inconceivable. The disciple that he had taught for 7 or 8 years wanted to poison him. Therefore, although he knew that it was impossible, he still wanted Chu Yang to give Shi Qianshan a chance to explain. He still had hope. Now that he heard Shi Qianshan's words, he immediately gave up. Chu Yang smiled and said, how can you not eat? Humans are made of iron and rice is made of steel. Moreover, you are injured and need nourishment. Come, quickly eat. Once you eat, everything will be fine. Shi Qianshan frowned and said with disgust, I said that I won't eat. Quickly get out. Why won't you eat? Could it be that there is poison inside? Chu Yang said sincerely, eldest martial brother, you and I have been martial brothers for so many years. Could it be that I would poison you? Quickly eat. Chapter 30. Shi Qianshan's face changed. Chu Yang's words had poked at his sore spot. He could not help but raise his head and look at Chu Yang. He asked, what do you mean? You'll understand what I mean after you eat. Chu Yang looked at him. His eyes gradually became cold. He said slowly, I want to see if the poison in this bowl of rice can kill people. To tell you the truth, I have always been curious about this. Shi Qianshan's heart sank. He forced a smile and said, what kind of joke is this? Chu Yang smiled mischievously and said, isn't this joke fun? Then let's do something fun. Suddenly, he carried the bowl to the bed and sat on it. He sat on Shi Qianshan's broken thigh. Crack! The bone that was just about to heal was broken again. Shi Qianshan screamed in pain. His whole body convulsed and trembled. Sweat as big as soybeans appeared on his face. His body was curled up like a shrimp. Just as he was about to scream, a piece of cotton was stuffed into his mouth. It was unknown when Chu Yang had pulled it out of the quilt. Chu Yang's movements were swift and agile, without the slightest hesitation. He completed the task in an instant. Perhaps even an old convict who had been working in the government for decades would not be able to match his fluidity at this moment. Shi Qianshan's screams were forcibly blocked and turned into a whimper. He could not make a sound. He could only stare at Chu Yang with a pair of frightened eyes. He shook his head repeatedly and sweat fell like rain. Chu Yang held the bowl in one hand and did not move an inch. However, his other hand gripped Shi Qianshan's neck. He leaned over and looked at him coldly. He said in a deep voice, Shi Qianshan, I did not want to kill you so early. I have not vented enough. Unfortunately, what you have done today has crossed my bottom line. Shi Qianshan whimpered. His eyes were full of hatred and fear. He struggled with all his might, but it affected his wound. It was so painful that sweat poured out. Shi Qianshan, let's not talk about how you have treated me and Tan Tan for the past few years. 8 years ago, your entire family was robbed at the foot of Broken Cloud Mountain. Your entire family's lives were at the hands of the bandits, and it looked like they were about to lose their lives. Your own sister was also about to be raped by the bandits. It was Master who passed by there and saved your family's lives, as well as your sister's reputation. After that, your whole family knelt on the ground and begged. Master saw that your talent was not bad, so he took you in as a younger brother, taught you martial arts, and taught you knowledge. It's fine if you don't know how to repay kindness, but today, you actually poisoned Master and wanted to kill him? Are you still human? Chu Yang growled in a low voice, you are simply heartless and unscrupulous. Shi Qianshan's eyes revealed a look of shame, but he quickly hid it. He glared at Chu Yang fiercely, as if he wanted to eat him alive. He actually didn't repent at all. Suddenly, he coughed violently, and a stream of blood gushed up from his throat. The force of the coughing was so strong that the cotton ball in his mouth was flushed out. Fresh blood splattered onto the blanket in front of his chest. He stared at Chu Yang, but didn't cry out in pain. Chu Yang, don't pretend to be a hypocrite here. In front of me, it's useless. Your tricks, I have long since disdained to use them. Shi Qianshan's voice was low, and he coughed. Blood continued to flow from his mouth. He said hatefully, I am ungrateful, so what? I wanted to kill you all with poison, so what? I am ambitious, heartless, and unscrupulous, so what? Shi Qianshan gasped for breath, and his chest heaved up and down. If it weren't for you, Chu Yang, this time, how could I have broken my leg and be seriously injured? If it weren't for my broken leg, how could I have lost the opportunity to participate in the great competition of the peaks? If it weren't for losing this opportunity, how could my life be so gloomy? Everything is because of you, Chu Yang. You and I cannot live under the same sky. As for Master, ha ha ha. Shi Qianshan sneered, and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. You think Meng Chao Ran has a good heart? Why did he save my family that year? Wasn't it because he liked my sister's beauty? If it weren't for my father's timely detection, and immediately married my sister after returning home, I'm afraid she would have fallen into his hands. Don't look at his usual righteous appearance, he is actually a perverted scoundrel. Sometimes at night, he even calls Choo Choo, Choo Choo. Do you think I didn't hear it? Choo Choo is my sister's nickname. That perverted scoundrel. He knew that he would not be spared today, and he actually spilled out all the viciousness in his heart to his heart's content. In the dining hall, Meng Chao Ran, who was listening to the commotion, suddenly trembled. His face turned purple, and with a pa sound, The teacup in his hand was crushed. The broken pieces fell from his hand. Meng Chao Rant's beard suddenly stood up, and he fiercely exhaled. This breath shot out, and with a pu sound, it actually pierced a big hole in the thick wooden door. Ha ha ha! I said it, I said it. This old man, what great kindness. Ha ha ha! Shi Qian Shan laughed crazily. Chu Yang roared, and his palm struck down. Suddenly, with a pu sound, a big hole appeared in the wall. Dust flew everywhere, and Meng Chao Ran entered through the hole, and grabbed Chu Yang's wrist. He knew that Chu Yang would not be able to endure these words, and would definitely immediately attack, so he did not have time to enter through the door. You! Old man, what else do you have to say? When Shi Qian Shan saw him enter, he instinctively shrank back, and then he actually fiercely shouted. Shi Qian Shan's hand that was holding Chu Yang's wrist slowly lowered. He quickly took 2 deep breaths, and miraculously recovered his calmness. He looked at Shi Qian Shan's eyes without any emotion, and slowly said, Shi Qian Shan, today, I will expel you from the sect. Shi Qian Shan laughed, and then coughed and said, Meng Chao Ran, do you think that at this time, Master Shi still cares about the identity of your little brother? Pei. Meng Chao Ran's eyes became cold, but his voice was still calm. He said in a deep voice, Shi Qian Shan, your sister Shi Chu Chu is indeed beautiful, but not to the extent that I, Meng Chao Ran, can't forget her. Shi Qian Shan snorted, and said mockingly, then why did you call my sister's name in your sleep? Are you crazy? Meng Chao Ran's eyes flashed with anger, but it was immediately replaced by sadness. I did not call your sister. I am 48 years old this year. 8 years ago, I was 40 years old. Your sister was only 15. Haha, although she is beautiful, I, Meng Chao Ran, am not that despicable. He smiled bitterly and said, I called Chu Chu, not Chu Chu. Chu Chu. Yi Chu Chen is my lover, my wife. We have been separated for 20 years already. I miss her all the time. Meng Chao Ran coldly said, that year, I saved your whole family. One of the reasons was that your sister's name and her, there was a word in her name that had the same pronunciation. Otherwise, in Jianghu, where the weak are prey to the strong, I, Meng Chao Ran, would not meddle in other people's business. Shi Qian Shan made a sound in his throat, and was unable to say anything. He finally understood. No wonder sometimes when Master called my sister's name, his accent was so strange. So he was not calling her. Suddenly, it was too late for regret. For a moment, his intestines turned green. He had suspected for so many years. He had hated for so long. It turned out that it was his own wishful thinking. Meng Chao Ran took a deep breath and said indifferently, the reason why I had to make it clear was not for you. It was also to send you on your way. There seemed to be some contradiction in these words, but Chu Yang knew that Meng Chao Ran's explanation was meant for him. He did not want his own brother to misunderstand him. He did not want his own sacred feelings to be misunderstood. He needed someone to be a witness. Even though it had been so many years, Meng Chao Ran's heart still did not allow any blasphemy. This time, Shi Qian Shan had touched Meng Chao Ran's absolute bottom line. Shi Qian Shan's face changed. He struggled and shouted, Master, I was wrong, I was wrong. I was confused. I deserve to die. Please. Please forgive me this time. As he shouted, tears flowed down his face. It's too late. You must know that in life, some things can be wrong, but some things cannot be wrong. Once you make a mistake, you will pay with your life. Meng Chao Ran coldly shook his head. He slowly stretched out his hand. His eyes flashed with a trace of sadness, but he did not care about Shi Qian Shan's begging. Chapter 31. Chu Yang's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He rushed forward and slapped his palm on Shi Qian Shan's chest. Pa! Shi Qian Shan's chest bones were shattered. His body jerked and his eyes bulged out. Blood started to flow out of his mouth and nose. He fell backward and stopped breathing. Asterisk, 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 dead. Hey! Meng Ran looked at him and understood what he meant. He could not help but sigh. Master, it's better for younger brother to do it. He has bullied us for a long time. Today is a good time to vent. Chu Yang said calmly. Meng Ran looked at Dong Xuebing and patted his shoulder. But in the end, she did not say anything and walked out. Personally killing the younger brother that he had raised for 8 years, with Meng Ran's character, after killing him, he would probably hold a grudge. But it was different when Chu Yang did it. Although he died in front of him, he was not the one who killed him. That kind of feeling would be much lighter. How could Meng Ran not understand Chu Yang's intention? Chu Yang also sighed. Looking at Shi Qianshan's corpse, he could not help but hatefully say, "Dying so quickly is really too easy for you." These words were not wrong. If Meng Ran did not suddenly come, with Chu Yang's methods and the accumulated hatred of 2 lives, he would definitely make Shi Qianshan beg for death. Chu Yang also finally understood why Meng Ran named himself Chu Yang. First, it was because of the Chu character on the jade pendant. Second, it was because of the Chu character in Yi Chu Chen's name. Chu Yang, does it not mean the morning sun? And Chu Chen, does it not have the same meaning as my name? And Tan Tan's Tan character, does it not mean the appearance of the Tan flower? Was that Meng Ran lamenting the shortness of his love? Chu Yang suddenly understood how bitter his master's heart was. The most painful thing in life is separation in life and death. And in these 4 words, separation in life is in front. This means that separation in life is much more painful than separation in death. Separation in death is painful for a while. But separation in life is painful for a lifetime. As long as one is alive, this pain and torment will never end. Yi Chu Chen. Chu Yang silently muttered. Then, he calmly looked in the direction that Meng Ran had gone. He then said in his heart, "Master, I will remember this name." Chu Yang turned his head and looked at Shi Qianshan's corpse. His eyes were wide open. Chu Yang was silent for a long time. His heart was filled with complicated emotions. He finally realized that he had truly changed the course of his life. In his previous life, Shi Qianshan should have lived for 4 years. However, in less than a month after his rebirth, Shi Qianshan died in his own hands. Chu Yang was silent for a while. Then, he wrapped the corpse in a quilt and slowly walked out. However, she was surprised to find that Tan Tan had prepared a table of dishes during this period of time. And, the dishes were placed on the table. They were steaming hot. What was even more surprising was that Meng Ran didn't disappear either. He just sat there quietly, as if waiting for him. Everything was as it had always been. When Tan Tan saw Chu Yang come in, his eyebrows twitched. He rubbed his hands and asked with some apprehension, "That eldest martial brother? Ah, Shi Qianshan? Dead. I killed him." Chu Yang said casually and then sat down. Tan Tan nodded and lowered his head. He suddenly felt that he didn't have anything to eat. Just now, he also heard Shi Qianshan's words. In his heart, he also felt that Shi Qianshan deserved to die. However, he didn't know why, but there was still a faint sadness in his heart. After all, they had been together for so many years. And before this, Tan Tan had never seen Shi Qianshan's true colors. Meng Ran was silent for a while. He picked up his chopsticks and said, "Let's eat." His expression was calm as if this matter had never happened. This purple bamboo garden had never had a person named Shi Qianshan. The 3 of them were silent. The atmosphere at the banquet was heavy to the extreme. Chu Yang also didn't say anything. Master Meng Ran didn't need any consolation at this time. Even if he felt that it wasn't worth it, he would be able to adjust himself in a few days. However, it was Shi Qianshan's last words that evoked Meng Ran's emotional pain. This emotional turmoil in his heart would probably last for a long time. After Meng Ran finished eating, he saw that Chu Yang was also wolfing down his food. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and said, "Chu Yang, this is your first time killing someone, right? If I remember correctly, you haven't even killed a single animal before." Chu Yang was startled and said, "Yes." Only then did he remember that he was too calm after killing someone. In the eyes of Meng Ran, who was experienced in Jianghu, this was undoubtedly a very surprising matter. Even though he was a martial artist, no matter how evil he was, when he killed someone for the first time, there would always be some abnormality. But now, Chu Yang's first time killing someone was his eldest martial brother whom he had lived with for 8 years. Unexpectedly, he didn't even have any effect on his food. How could this not be strange? Your mentality is like that of a natural killer. Meng Ran smiled faintly and said. After saying this, he suddenly remembered Wu Yunliang's suggestion. In his heart, he approved of the possibility of Chu Yang doing that dangerous mission. With this kind of calmness, even to the point of being callous, to do that mission, there was absolutely no need to worry about being exposed. However, Meng Ran was still somewhat uneasy. His mood was very conflicted. That was an opportunity, but at the same time, it was also a path of death. A natural killer. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. In his heart, he thought, even though this is the first time I killed someone in this life, in my previous life, I had already killed tens of thousands of people. How could I not be calm? I was already numb. Killing a person was not as effective as killing a dog. Shi Qianshan deserved to die. Little brother killing him was a matter of course. There was no pressure, and it was very satisfying. Chu Yang said seriously. Meng Ran looked at him and suddenly smiled faintly. He said, very good, and no longer spoke. 3 days quickly passed. On this night, Chu Yang sat alone in the depths of the purple bamboo forest, feeling the energy of heaven and earth. He had a premonition that today, he should be able to break through to martial warrior. Since the day he killed Shi Qianshan, the ruthlessness in his heart had been aroused. Chu Yang had always felt his dantian's qi fluctuating violently. It was as if a bloodthirsty emotion was awakening, struggling and roaring. This was the ruthlessness that was left in his soul when he practiced the emotionless sword path in his previous life. Chu Yang spent a lot of effort to suppress this emotion and continued to cultivate calmly. However, from that moment on, the true energy in his body suddenly surged. It was as if he was about to break through some shackles. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes and controlled the energy whirlpool in his dantian. The calamity sword seemed to have become the core. The energy whirlpool circled around the calamity sword in his dantian. Like lightning, it rushed out of his dantian and rushed into his meridians. With a sharp energy, it passed through his meridians. It gradually went up. After it passed through his meridians, it had already formed a vast energy flow. Chu Yang's mind moved, and the energy flow broke away from the circulation channel of a martial disciple. It brazenly continued to rush up to the bottleneck of a martial warrior. Boom! Chu Yang only felt a sudden thunderous sound in his body. His body shook violently, and with a puff, he spat out a mouthful of blood. 2 streaks of blood came out of his nostrils. His face was flushed red. However, the vast energy flow had already broken through the bottleneck. It charged forward little by little in the newly opened meridians. Chu Yang controlled it with his mind. After breaking through, it was the first time he circulated his martial power through the new meridians. He must be careful. Otherwise, there would be damage. This damage was invisible, but it could restrict a person's future achievement. It was as if he was crossing a wooden bridge. After guiding the energy flow through one cycle, Chu Yang was already sweating profusely. However, he did not relax and continued to circulate. 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 1 cycle. After the cycle was completed, Chu Yang suddenly exhaled. He felt that there was no strength in his body, but his whole body felt as comfortable as if he was immersed in warm water. The breath he exhaled, even in the pitch-black darkness of the night, flashed in front of him, and then dissipated into the air. In a hidden corner of the purple bamboo forest, Meng Ran stood motionless. His body was already covered with frost marks, and he was concentrating on protecting his younger brother. The moment Chu Yang broke through, Meng Ran also let out a long sigh of relief. He finally succeeded. Chu Yang's path of cultivation had taken another step forward. Chapter 32. Chu Yang only broke through to martial warrior. How could he force out the impurities in his meridians? What kind of monstrous disciple did I get? Meng Chao Ran was completely stunned. To be able to shock the usually carefree Meng Chao Ran to such an extent, this was definitely the first time in Beyond the Heavens Sec. If Wu Yunliang and the others knew about this, Their eyeballs would probably fall to the ground. Normally, when a martial warrior breaks through, they force out the impurities in their body. These impurities are acquired and are called body transformation. Martial warriors, from level 1 to peak martial warrior, basically remove the impurities on the surface of the body. After that is martial masters. Martial masters also force out the impurities in their body step by step, making their body more suitable for cultivation. Martial masters force out the impurities in their body, including the 5 viscera. These are also acquired impurities. This step is called body transformation. After that, when a martial great master breaks through, the impurities in their meridians are also acquired. It was only at this stage that he could be considered to have reached the stage of cultivation. This step is called meridian cleansing. Above martial great master, when a revered martial artist cultivates, it is time to force out the impurities in the deepest part of the body. This step is called meridian cleansing. Meridian cleansing is also the last step of refining the body. Now, Chu Yang had only broken through to martial warrior, but he had already reached the meridian cleansing stage. How could Meng Chao Ran not be shocked? It must be known that the current Meng Chao Ran was only at the late stage of meridian cleansing. Chu Yang often let out a sigh of relief. He had finally broken through to martial warrior. In other words, as long as he obtained the first fragment of Tribulation Sword, he could immediately cultivate Tribulation Divine Technique. Meng Chao Ran was surprised, but Chu Yang was not surprised at all. Every morning, he persisted in doing the same set of movements, constantly removing the impurities in his body. The impurities on the surface of his body, muscles, and bones had already been removed. These were the marvelous movements of Tribulation Sword. They were the secrets of the human body. Although it was only one movement, it allowed the entire body to move from inside to outside at the same time. At the same time, it created a pressure several times stronger, removing the impurities. It was just this set of seemingly ordinary movements, but it was hard to find even with tens of thousands of gold. It was a martial artist's treasure. Chu Yang stood up. His feet were nailed to the ground as if they were nailed to the ground. His upper body slowly leaned back. His waist seemed to have been broken. His head was bent all the way between his legs. Then, his hands reached under his crotch and grabbed his chin. Then, he exerted his strength, and his body suddenly bounced up from the ground in the shape of a round ball. It was spinning in the air. Meng Chaoran noticed that while he was spinning in the air, every part of his body was still moving in this position. From his neck to his toes, the sound of joints cracking could be heard, one after another. Meng Chaoran was shocked. Although he didn't know the effect of this action, he knew that it was extremely difficult. If it were him, he definitely wouldn't be able to do it the first time. Chu Yang spun 7 or 8 times in the air before landing on the ground. He rolled back and forth on the ground in a circle. Then, his body suddenly stretched out like a chick breaking out of an eggshell. The sound of the joints in his body became even more intense. Then, he slowly stood up. His body was in a posture that was almost like a toddler learning to walk. When he stood up, his legs trembled no less than 1,000 times. Every tremble was accompanied by a crisp sound from the depths of his bones. In the end, he steadied his body. The sound of the joints in his body weakened, but his 2 arms slowly stretched out in a strange position. Another burst of cracking sounds came from his arms. Pa pa pa, Meng Chaoran was almost stunned. He finally understood the meaning of this set of movements. But when he thought about it, he was horrified. This set of movements was clearly the trajectory of life. Every movement seemed strange and incomprehensible, but they were all full of traces of the great Tao. From nothing to something, becoming an egg, gestating, breaking out of the shell, standing up. This was the trajectory of life belonging to the bird. Chu Yang made 4 movements, and then stopped. This was also a set of movements contained in the Calamity Sword. Only after entering the martial warrior realm could he practice this set of movements. If he practiced this set of movements as a martial disciple, he was afraid that he would break all the bones in his body. The pain he had to endure to practice this set of movements was not much lighter than breaking bones. Moreover, it was a continuous pain that penetrated into the bone marrow. But from beginning to end, Chu Yang did not even make a sound. If he made a sound, he would lose his vitality, and the effect would be greatly reduced. After his rebirth, Chu Yang had already made up his mind. Either he did not do it, or he did it to the best of his ability. He took a deep breath. At this time, the sweat on his body surged out violently. On the ground, it was quickly soaking through at a speed visible to the naked eye. Master, these 4 movements are called the limitless Tao of heaven and earth. There are too many mysteries in it, and I don't understand them fully. Master, please correct me. Chu Yang did not turn his head and said lightly. He knew that his master must be protecting him. Although he did not notice, Meng Chaoran was definitely there. Because it was only 4 years later in his previous life that he found out that every time the 3 of them broke through, although Meng Chaoran seemed indifferent on the surface, he was even more nervous than them. Every time, he had to be fully alert to secretly protect them. When they broke through, they only needed to work hard, but their master had to suffer in secret for several days. But Meng Chaoran never said anything. He was a person who only did and did not say anything. By the time Chu Yang understood his master's good intentions, it was already too late. In this life, how could he miss it? Meng Chaoran chuckled and walked out of the purple bamboo forest. He asked, "How did you know I was here?" Chu Yang smiled. His eyes shone with deep emotion. He said, "When we broke through, Master was not here. When we were cultivating, we were never disturbed. When we were breaking through, there wasn't even a mosquito by our side. It was absolutely quiet, not to mention other snakes, insects, and rats. In this purple bamboo forest that is filled with these things, isn't it strange?" Meng Chaoran smiled with gratification. He said, "You worked hard. Breaking through is your own ability. I was just secretly watching." Meng Chaoran did not say anything, but his heart was moved. He knew that Chu Yang's set of movements were deliberately done for him to see. It was so that he could also practice and improve his ability to protect himself. This set of movements was full of traces of the great Tao. It was absolutely beneficial for him to comprehend martial arts. He did not say anything, but his heart secretly remembered it. This set of movements was absolutely precious. He really did not know where Chu Yang learned it. But Meng Chaoran did not ask. Everyone had their own secrets. If Chu Yang did not want to take the initiative to say it, he would not ask. He respected his disciple's privacy. Chu Yang is my disciple. Knowing this is enough, Meng Chaoran stood for a while and went back. How could he not know that Chu Yang was on the verge of breaking through? He had been observing Chu Yang's movements every day for several days. He was mentally exhausted. But Chu Yang had just broken through, so he did not feel sleepy. It was late at night. Chu Yang hugged his knees and sat alone on the peak of the mountain. He looked at the dark night and his heart was in turmoil. "Qing Wu, I am already a martial warrior. Soon, I will be able to cultivate to the tribulation level and have the power to protect you. I will not let you suffer any harm. Where are you now? The Qing Wu now is only 10 years old, right?" As Chu Yang thought, he could not help but smile gently. "I wonder how Qing Wu looks like now. Is she still a little girl? With a ponytail?" In his previous life, he met Mo Qing Wu after the New Year. At that time, Mo Qing Wu was 10 years old. He was 25 years old. Thinking of Mo Qing Wu at that time, Chu Yang's mind wandered. He still remembered that Mo Qing Wu also liked purple bamboo. And because of the warmth of his childhood, he always chose a place to cultivate in seclusion. He would always find a patch of purple bamboo. So, it was at Nirvana. In the purple bamboo forest on the heavenly mist peak, he met Mo Qing Wu for the first time. And finally, Mo Qing Wu was attacked near the purple bamboo forest on the heavenly mist peak. Inside, there were a few bamboo houses that Mo Qing Wu built herself. There were a few young bamboos. Mo Qing Wu carefully planted them on the path to welcome him. He remembered that Mo Qing Wu had said at that time, "Chu Yang, if I die one day, please burn my body into ashes and scatter them on this path. Plant my heart and soul on this path, just so that when you walk from here, you can step on me. I would rather let you step on everything I have, even if you are not here to see me, but just to see these purple bamboos. But please let me feel that you are here, that will be enough. Ching Wu, Ching Wu, Chu Yang's heart ached as he called out to her. He smiled gently, his eyes full of anticipation. Asterisk 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 asterisk, the first one has been sent to sleep. Brothers and sisters who have tickets, throw a few tickets. Asterisk G. Chapter 33. As the night deepened, it was nearing the third night watch period. Chu Yang sat like a rock, deep in thought. His sleeves gently fluttered in the night wind, but he did not move an inch. The fourth night watch period arrived. Heaven and earth suddenly fell into the deepest darkness. Chu Yang was about to get up and return to his room when he suddenly felt something strange. His eyes suddenly became sharp as he looked towards the left side of the mountain road. On the left side was a road that led to beyond the heavens sect. It diverged from another mountain range and was very hidden. Under Chu Yang's gaze, a few shadows suddenly appeared at the bottom of the cliff. They were as fast as the wind and disappeared like ghosts in the dark night. The direction they disappeared in was actually the direction of beyond the heavens sect. Chu Yang's eyes narrowed. The fourth night watch period was the best time for night walkers to move. Moreover, the darkest time was less than half an hour. These people had clearly been hiding here for a long time, but they had to wait until now to act. They definitely did not have good intentions. Thinking of Meng Rant's words about protecting beyond the heavens sect, Chu Yang's eyes became serious. He suddenly got up and rushed down the cliff like a meteor. Using the cliff wall as support, he reached the bottom. Then, using the mountain rocks and trees as cover, he quickly chased after the three people. Although he was only a first-grade martial warrior, he was not the least bit afraid. Even if he was no match for them, he was still confident that he could escape. If these people really had bad intentions, Chu Yang felt that he was quite competent in causing trouble. He chased after them for a few miles. Chu Yang's movements were light and graceful, seemingly slow but actually fast. If there was an expert watching from the side, he would definitely be shocked. Every place he landed was an absolute blind spot. As he flew, he constantly used objects to cover his body. He seemed to be looking for temporary cover, but every time, it was absolutely flawless. His body was floating a few feet away, but his eyes were always looking for cover within a few feet of him. He had already made a perfect plan. Chu Yang continued to move forward. After chasing for 5 miles, he could already see the mountain gate of beyond the heavens sect in the distance. Chu Yang suddenly felt something and immediately stopped. His body flashed and he was already in the shadows. Then, he laid his body flat on the mountain rock and moved forward. Although it was a little slow, there was absolutely no sound coming from him. The three shadows were waiting quietly in a valley at the corner of the mountain. Not far in front of them was the mountain gate of beyond the heavens sect. Over there were younger brothers who were on duty day and night. Moreover, there were quite a few of them. Each mountain peak sent out one person to supervise and restrict each other, as well as to keep each other company. Other than the purple bamboo garden, the other peaks of beyond the heavens sect were all within this mountain gate. These people obviously didn't dare to force their way in. Although they were not afraid of these gatekeepers with their strength, they would still alert the enemy. It seemed like they were waiting, or were they going to meet here? Chu Yang thought to himself. Then, he slowly moved forward another 30 feet. He was now less than 100 feet away from those three people. The three of them were all Black Turban sect's G-faces. They were carefully hiding behind a large rock. Chu Yang looked at the place where they were hiding, and couldn't help but sigh in admiration. These three people seemed to be Jianghu veterans. The place they chose to hide in was a blind spot on 3 sides. Moreover, this was the only side where there were 2 exits. One of the exits was relatively hidden. In other words, even if there was an accident, they could escape quickly and not be caught by the enemy. Chu Yang held his breath. His body was like a rock as he quietly waited. His patience and confidence could be compared to anyone in the world. Time slowly slipped away. Among the three people, a slightly thin figure seemed to be somewhat impatient. He slightly adjusted his posture and whispered, "What's going on? Didn't we agree on this time?" Why hasn't that damned guy come yet? Don't be impatient. Another black-clothed man cautiously looked around and whispered a warning. Then, he raised his head and looked around. He suspiciously said, "Why do I feel like there's movement?" Hearing this, the other two also became alert. They pricked up their ears and looked around. Chu Yang's breathing rate remained the same. He treated their words as farts. Motionless. This was a kind of reaction. It was like a person walking alone at night. If someone was following behind him, he would have this kind of reaction even if he didn't turn his head. Not to mention martial artists, even ordinary people had this kind of reaction ability. But if he turned his head and didn't find anything, he would just treat it as an illusion. Sure enough, after the three people looked around, they all relaxed. The black-clothed man who said there was movement laughed self-deprecatingly and said, "I was being paranoid. It's always right to be cautious." The other two whispered. At this moment, there was a movement from the mountain gate. A voice shouted, "Who is it?" A steady and low voice said, "It's me." "Oh, it's second martial uncle. I've been disrespectful. Millimeter, is second martial uncle going to practice martial arts?" "Yes, this is the best time to practice martial arts. You people must also remember that hard work can make up for your lack of talent. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is the thickest in the morning. It's the best time to practice martial arts. Yes, we will follow second martial uncle's teachings." A black shadow slowly walked over. Behind him, the disciple who was guarding the gate was still praising, "Second martial uncle is worthy of being a big figure in our sect. His martial arts are high, but he's easy to approach. He's also very diligent. Every day at this time, he comes out to practice. This perseverance is really amazing. If it were me, I wouldn't be able to do it." Another voice said, "That's right. What kind of person is second martial uncle? How can you compare to him?" Chu Yang's heart shook. This person was second martial uncle Li Jinsong, Li Jian's father. The master of Locking Cloud's Peak of Beyond the Heavens sect, the second most important person. Li Jinsong was dressed in martial arts clothes, carrying a long sword on his back. He looked like he was out to practice swordsmanship. He leisurely went out of the mountain gate. With a long body, he drew a beautiful arc. Behind him, there was another sound. Li Jinsong flew a few times and came to the corner. He turned a few more times and walked to the back of the huge rock. It seemed that they had contacted each other more than once or twice. Chu Yang thought to himself. In addition, the disciple who was guarding the gate said, "Every day at this time, he comes out to practice martial arts." It was enough to show that Li Jinsong had done a lot of things in secret. "Why did you come so late? Is there any news?" The skinny man asked impatiently in a low voice. "Am I late?" Li Jinsong snorted. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied with this question. He said, "Did you bring the things?" "The things are not urgent." The other person quickly tried to smooth things over. He said, "Brother Li, quickly tell us about the recent changes in the situation." Li Jinsong snorted and lowered his voice. "The situation is a bit strange. I want to ask, besides you, is there anyone else who has designs on Beyond the Heavens sect?" The three men in black were also startled. They looked at each other and said, "This is not clear. However, Beyond the Heavens sect is in a precarious situation right now. There are many people who have designs on it." Li Jinsong made an O sound and said, "Just a while ago, Wu Yunliang sent old Violent Lei to take two of his sect's most outstanding disciples and his daughter to Iron Cloud Nation." "Iron Cloud Nation?" the three asked at the same time. "Yes, and this trip was very secretive. But as far as I know, the four of them were intercepted more than once on the way. Obviously, someone did not want them to go. Moreover, these people are very well informed." Li Jinsong said calmly. Behind the rock, Chu Yang's heart shook. It seems that Li Jinsong was not the only spy. What is the purpose of going to Iron Cloud Nation? The three men obviously did not care about the safety of Bao Kuang Lei and the others. They only wanted to know the reason. "I don't know." Li Jinsong frowned and said, "But, no matter what, they went to Iron Cloud. For us, Half of our goal has been achieved. Yes, Beyond the Heavens sect is within Great Zhao's borders. Wu Yunliang actually dared to send people to collude with Iron Cloud. He really has guts. One of the men in black said gloomily. Is this the only news? Is it worth it for us to come all the way here? Brother Li, this is a bit too much. The other man in black had a mask on his face, but from his voice, one could hear that he was smiling insincerely. Of course not. It's just that you promised something. It's time to fulfill it. Li Jinsong suppressed his anger and said, You are from the imperial court and the military. You will not go back on your promises. Moreover, we have secretly pressured Wu Yunliang to side with Iron Cloud. Even though the final decision has not been made, it is the same as saying that my mission has been accomplished. Secretly, Chu Yang was startled. The imperial court and the military? Beyond the Heavens sect is only a sect. What does it have to do with the imperial court and the military? And this imperial court is obviously the imperial court of Great Zhao. Chu Yang faintly felt that a great conspiracy was in progress. Perhaps the destruction of Beyond the Heavens sect in his previous life had a lot to do with this. Chapter 34. Brother Li, this is not what Prime Minister Diwu told you. The man in black, who was obviously the leader, laughed and said, We support you in defeating Wu Yunliang and eliminating all dissidents. You are in sole control of Beyond the Heavens sect. You will be listed as a sect of the imperial court. Brother Li's disciples can enter the imperial court as officials and bring honor to their ancestors. He laughed in a low voice, with such great benefits, I am afraid that even the Heavenly Dao Union's master Shen Yuan would be tempted. And you think that by providing one or two pieces of information, you can exchange it for a lifetime of glory and wealth. Li Jinsong was furious. He shouted in a low voice, Even the lives of my family are in your hands. How can you talk about glory and wealth? The man in black said, But Brother Li, the thing you want. Haha, you should know how important it is. Li Jinsong snorted and said, If worst comes to worst, I will go to Shangjing and find Prime Minister Diwu. I will just put this matter aside for a while. His tone was unusually decisive. The man in black pondered for a while and finally softened. Fine, Brother Li, I won't hide it from you. The 1,000-year-old crystal spirit mushroom you want is very difficult to find. The Prime Minister has already sent out 18 teams to look for it. Once it is found, it will be delivered to you immediately. He laughed and said, The Prime Minister knows that this is what you are most anxious about, right? Brother Li, you are really a sentimental person. But this kind of treasure can only be found by chance. Brother Li, you cannot be impatient. Li Jinsong snorted and said angrily, I can wait. I can even wait for 100 years. But my wife cannot wait. She is waiting for this thing to save her life. Of course, of course. So even though Prime Minister Diwu did not let us bring the 1,000-year-old crystal spirit mushroom, he did let us bring the 3 lives pill. The man in black laughed and said, 3 pills. Li Jinsong suddenly raised his head, really? Not only him, even Chu Yang who was eavesdropping on the side suddenly felt his heart skip a beat. 3 lives pill. 1,000-year-old crystal spirit mushroom. These were all things that could only be found by chance. What did Li Jinsong want? The 3 lives pill was not a medicinal pill. Instead, it was a strange kind of fruit. The plant of this fruit only sprouted in the first season, and withered in 10 years. After another 20 years, it would sprout and branch again. After 50 years, it would become a small tree. It withered and rotted once again. Another 50 years later, it sprouted for the 3rd time. After 200 years, it grew into a mature plant. It bloomed for 1 season, and the flowers were extremely poisonous. Then, it bore this kind of fruit. It was the 3 lives pill. After the fruit ripened, it became the size of an apricot. The plant immediately withered and never relapsed again. 3 times, 330 years, only 1 fruit was born. One could imagine how precious this fruit was. The effects were even better. It could cure chronic illnesses, cure terminal illnesses, heal serious injuries, cultivate one's vitality, and increase one's lifespan. As for the 1,000-year crystal Ganoderma, it was a legendary item. It was one of the most miraculous medicines in the world. Its specific effects were enough to bring the dead back to life. However, Chu Yang didn't know its specific effects. However, both of these miraculous medicines were related to curing illnesses. Could it be that Li Jinsong's wife is sick? This Prime Minister Diwu was actually so generous, taking out 3 Sansheng Dan for Li Jinsong at once. These 3 Sansheng Dan are enough to protect your wife for 3 years. The man in black took out a black jade box and said, Prime Minister Diwu told me to tell you that if you can't find the crystal Ganoderma after 3 years, he can only give you other compensation. He said with a heavy tone, Prime Minister Diwu clearly told me not to deceive you about this matter. The Prime Minister said that although we are working together for each other's benefit, being honest with each other is the most important thing. These are the words of the Prime Minister himself. Li Jinsong lowered his head and was silent for a while. Then he said in a low voice, Thank you for your honesty. Li Jinsong understands. He lowered his head, and the sky was dark. Chu Yang couldn't see his expression, but behind the big rock, Chu Yang sneered in his heart. This Prime Minister Diwu's words were pleasant to hear, but from Li Jinsong's words, even the lives of my family are in your hands. What glory and splendor are you talking about? It was clear. Li Jinsong was blinded by greed, but he didn't do this willingly. He was under a certain degree of coercion. Coercing his people to talk about honesty? If Li Jinsong really believed it, then he would be the biggest fool in the world. The Sansheng Dan is extremely precious. You must keep it well. Normally, put it in this black jade box. Do not open it unless you need to use it. You must know that every time you open it, the spiritual energy of the Sansheng Dan will decrease. The man in black solemnly said, This matter in Iron Cloud, we brothers must report it to Prime Minister Diwu as soon as possible. If the Prime Minister knows, he will make arrangements. Brother Li, we will take our leave. Li Jinsong clasped his hands and said, I won't see you out. He was already holding the black jade box tightly in his arms. The 3 men in black had been gone for a long time. Li Jinsong was still standing in the same place. After a long time, he sighed and walked back with the black jade box. Not long after, his figure disappeared into the darkness. Chu Yang was still hiding behind the big rock. Even his breathing had not changed. Sure enough, with a gust of wind, Li Jinsong's figure appeared again. He circled around to make sure that no one was eavesdropping. Then he flew away. He had finally left. Chu Yang breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that the secret he had eavesdropped on today was related to the life and death of Beyond the Heavens sect. It was extremely important. If he was discovered, escaping would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. He had to be cautious. No one would have thought that the traitor of Beyond the Heavens sect was the second in command of the sect, the powerful Li Jinsong. Chu Yang was about to stand up and move his stiff limbs when suddenly his whole body tensed up. He quietly raised his head to look at the scene. On the stage, at the place where the 4 of them were talking, a black-clothed figure had appeared without a sound. Chu Yang's scalp was numb because he did not notice when this person had arrived. This person was dressed in black and had a tall stature. He stood there for a long time without moving. After a while, he suddenly sighed deeply and lightly said, Chu Yang, you can come out. Chu Yang's scalp suddenly exploded. It seemed that this person had noticed his arrival, and he even recognized him. It was too late to leave now. And this person's tone did not seem to have any evil intentions. Chu Yang's heart hardened. He stood up and walked forward step by step. You heard everything, right? The person with his hands behind his back said to Chu Yang. Yes, you also heard everything, right? I'm afraid you heard it even more clearly than me. Chu Yang smiled faintly, squinted his eyes and asked back. The person let out a low laugh and slowly turned around. At this time, the darkest moment had passed. The sky was gradually becoming hazy. The faint starlight in the sky shone on this person's face. 3 strands of black beard floated in front of his chest. His face was square and serious. He was not angry, but he was dignified. Chu Yang looked and could not help but be even more surprised. He was so surprised that he almost could not speak. This person was the current sect master of Beyond the Heavens sect, Wu Yunliang. Why was he here? If he was here, then he must have known about Li Jinsong's scheme. Why did he not stop him? For a moment, Chu Yang's heart was filled with doubts. He only felt confused. Even though he had lived 2 lives, he could not understand the complexity of this situation. He could not figure out what was going on. Follow me. Wu Yunliang looked at the gradually brightening sky. Suddenly, he reached out and grabbed Chu Yang's sleeve, pulling him along as they ran. After turning left and right, they turned into a valley not far from Purple Bamboo Garden. Although this valley was not very remote, it was very desolate. Because there was nothing inside, Chu Yang and the others did not come here. Here, there was a cave in the mountain wall, forming a natural cave. It was not even 2 feet deep. Come in. Wu Yunliang led the way. Chapter 35. Chu Yang also followed him inside. Inside, there was a small stone table that was very smooth. It looked like it was made into a bench. It seemed that people often came here to sit. Sure enough, Wu Yunliang waved his sleeves and sat down. He looked up at Chu Yang and sized him up. The corners of his mouth curled up in a friendly smile. You are not bad. Wu Yunliang's first sentence was like this. Those 3 people are from Great Zhao's Golden Horse Riders Department. Golden Horse Riders Department belongs to the current Prime Minister, Diwu Qingru. It is an absolutely secret organization. Wu Yunliang did not wait for Chu Yang to speak and began to explain. Golden Horse Riders Hall, Diwu Qingru. Chu Yang looked pensive. These 2 names were also very famous in his previous life. They were like thunder piercing the ears. Golden Horse Riders Department was actually the secret weapon of Great Zhao. I will not explain too much here. You can imagine the Ming dynasty's Eastern faction guards and the imperial bodyguards. The more I explain, the more nonsense I will say. Diwu Qingru's name was gentle, but he was actually an ambitious and ruthless person. It was rumored that he did not understand martial arts, but he entered school at 3 years old. At 5 years old, he became famous all over the world. At 10 years old, he became an official and managed a county in an orderly manner. At 20 years old, he was already the Southeast Inspector of Great Zhao. At 25 years old, he officially entered the imperial cabinet and patrolled the entire Great Zhao. At 30 years old, he became the Prime Minister. This year, he was not even 35 years old, but he was already the most powerful person in Great Zhao. He could call the wind and summon the rain. He commanded hundreds of officials and commanded the world. This kind of achievement was unique in all of history. Throughout history, officials and generals opposed each other. However, this Diwu Qingru was able to subdue all of the military officials. Not only did he have the ability to govern, but he also had the ambition to expand his territory. Unifying the world was Diwu Qingru's biggest goal. In his previous life, the name Diwu Qingru was the shadow of the entire lower 3 heavens. In the entire world, there was no conspiracy that did not have Diwu Qingru's shadow and influence. It was under Diwu Qingru's plan that Golden Horse Riders Department secretly carried out. Tai Tai Bu Tian, who was widely recognized as the next ruler of Iron Cloud Nation, was assassinated, and Great Zhao's armored cavalry marched straight in and destroyed Iron Cloud. Their momentum was like the sun in the sky for a while. Moreover, they used the remaining momentum to swallow up the limitless nation in one fell swoop. They occupied the position of absolute overlord in the entire lower 3 heavens. The most powerful aspect of Diwu Qingru was that he not only used the political power of the imperial court, but also the power of the big sects of Jianghu. He made use of their conflicts and interests to create chaos or alliances. Unintentionally, these sects helped Great Zhao accomplish many things that the imperial court could not or would not be able to do. Moreover, the most amazing thing was that after the incident, no one discovered it. If he hadn't said it himself, he was afraid that all the large sects would still be in the dark. When Chu Yang left for Upper 3 Heavens to look for the Tribulation Sword, the Great Zhao Empire's cavalry had already destroyed Iron Cloud and Wuji. They gradually expanded their territory. The name of the Golden Horse Riders Department spread throughout the world because of the destruction of these two countries. Wu Yunliang naturally did not know that Chu Yang already knew about these matters. He still explained to him what the Golden Horse Riders Department was. I just want to know, why didn't you stop it? Chu Yang frowned. Why should I stop it? Wu Yunliang smiled. These past few years, I have been accompanying my second brother. We would wake up early in the morning and go to that place to practice martial arts. Wu Yunliang smiled mockingly, although he did not know. Since they started to contact each other 5 years ago, I have always been clear about it. Chu Yang was startled. Looking at Wu Yunliang's warm and dignified face, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. In his previous life, because his sect was destroyed and Chu Yang did not have any contact with this sect leader, he looked down on him. How could a sect leader's sect be wiped out under his watch? What was the use of such a sect leader? But now, he knew that this sect leader Wu Yunliang was very scheming. If anyone thought of him as a fool, then that person was a real fool. Actually, if you think about it, who could be a sect leader? Which one of them was easy to deal with? But Wu Yunliang actually allowed a conspiracy to exist and develop under his nose for 5 years. Why? Chu Yang looked at Wu Yunliang's calm face and understood something. The first step was to incite internal strife within Beyond the Heavens sect. When I took over Beyond the Heavens sect, the Martial brothers were not convinced. The elders were also divided into factions. Internal strife was already rampant. They needed to be cleansed to become stronger. Wu Yunliang said heavily, so I allowed them to do this. If they did not succeed, then they would be destroyed. There was nothing to say. In the second year, they gradually revealed their goal. That was to use Beyond the Heavens sect status as a sect to incite a war between Great Zhao and Iron Cloud. They wanted to use the smallest price to swallow Iron Cloud and preserve their strength to unify the world. How is this possible? Chu Yang asked in surprise. Even if Beyond the Heavens sect was strong, it was still only a sect. What ability did it have to incite a war between two countries? There is nothing impossible in this world. What matters is whether it is done or not and how it is done. Wu Yunliang smiled coldly. Sect leader Martial Uncle, why are you telling me this today? Isn't this the first time we have met? The more Chu Yang listened, the more restless he became. It was as if he had walked into a trap and was stuck in the mud. Don't be impatient. I have my reasons for telling you this. Sit down. Wu Yunliang glared at him. Chu Yang helplessly rolled his eyes. He simply moved over a rock and sat on it. It was not clear whether it was intentional or not, but the rock he brought was much bigger than Wu Yunliang's rock. Originally, Chu Yang was standing and Wu Yunliang was sitting. It was as if he was lecturing him. But now that he was sitting, he was about the same height as when he was standing, but he was looking down on him. Instead, the sect leader sat below him. This kind of situation was simply turning from a lecture to a report. Wu Yunliang frowned and looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. He did not care about Chu Yang's rudeness and continued to speak. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. As long as Wu Yunliang said one word of dissatisfaction, he would immediately withdraw from this whirlpool. But this bastard did not say anything. Curiosity killed the cat. This saying was true. Chu Yang regretted it. Tell me, why would I chase after those 3 people when I had nothing better to do? Didn't he just find a rope to hang himself? Iron Cloud's Tai Bu Tian was young, only 17 or 18 years old, but he was a great strategist. Plus, he paid a lot of attention to the people outside of the court, especially the people who were willing to die. He personally created the Heaven Mending Pavilion. Inside, he gathered all the heroes from the 3 mountains and 5 peaks, especially this person who treated the wise with respect. He had the spirit to rule the world and was magnanimous. He was a rare young leader. Iron Cloud's ruler, Tai Shi-cheng, was bedridden for many years. The entire country was supported by Tai Bu Tian. Even though he did not ascend the throne, he was already the ruler of Iron Cloud. He was also the spiritual pillar of Iron Cloud's military. It could be said that with Tai Bu Tian's death, Ironcloud Nation collapse. Chu Yang listlessly replied, so what if he was young and powerful? In another 3 years, he would still be killed. The nation would also be destroyed. Chu Yang still remembered that in his previous life, Ironcloud's Tai Butian was killed because Great Zhao sent out more than 500 experts. They also spent a lot of money to hire several assassin organizations before they succeeded. But after the event, none of these people survived. Chapter 36. However, the Great Zhao Empire caught hold of his weakness, and it was because of his respect for the wise. Wu Yunliang said heavily, being courteous to the wise is of course an advantage. But it is also because of this that there are no fights. Without a fight, it gives an opportunity for assassins. That's why many people are easy to approach before they succeed. But after they succeed, they become difficult to approach. This is not a change in personality, but a safety measure. Chu Yang had a lazy expression on his face, but in his heart, he was shouting, that makes sense. Great Zhao sent more than 20 assassins to assassinate Tai Butian, but they all returned without success. So, they wanted to use Beyond the Heavens sect. Wu Yunliang sneered. Chu Yang sighed and said, so when eldest martial uncle heard their plan, you decided not to expose it, but to beat them at their own game? That's right. Wu Yunliang said, since they want to use us, why can't we use them to rise up? Chu Yang finally understood why Beyond the Heavens sect was destroyed in his previous life. Wu Yunliang must have wanted to use the war between the two countries as an opportunity to rise up, but he overreached himself. But there must have been a lot of complicated matters involved. After all, facing a freak like Diwu Qingru, no one had any confidence. Even Mo Tianji, who was known as the master of calculation and manipulation in his previous life, could only concede defeat to Diwu Qingru, the prime minister of a secular country. Diwu Qingru was known throughout the lower 3 heavens as one man who could fight against 1,000,000 masters. Speaking of this person, even his enemies could not help but admire him. They had to admit that this person was truly one of a kind. This person was a natural schemer, a politician, and a military strategist. Plus, he was open-minded and all-encompassing. Someone once said that even if Diwu Qingru did not know any martial arts, he could still become the overlord of upper 3 heavens. This evaluation was so high that it was shocking. Wu Yunliang was only taking a risk. It was like walking on a tightrope on a cliff. If he was not careful, he would be crushed to pieces. I am also taking a big risk. Wu Yunliang's face was heavy with worry. If I was not careful, Beyond the Heavens sect would have been destroyed. But I had to take this risk. Chu Yang nodded, agreeing with this statement. In order to implement this plan, Great Zhao has been oppressing Beyond the Heavens sect for the past few years. However, they are not forcing us to our deaths. They are only vaguely forcing us to move closer to Ironcloud. As long as we get closer, there will be spies within our ranks. Furthermore, other than your second martial uncle, among the 10 of us, 3 of us are in cahoots with other sects. This is also the result of the pressure that those sects have been exerting on us in recent years. I suspect that this is also Diwu Qingru's scheme. But I have not yet discerned his motive. But one thing is for sure. Once we get close, it will be much easier for these people to assassinate Tai Butian. Wu Yunliang said worriedly. Diwu Qingru only wants Tai Butian dead. He doesn't care about Beyond the Heavens sect. But once Tai Butian dies, our Beyond the Heavens sect will definitely be annihilated. Chu Yang's face gradually became heavy. He didn't know all the details, but he knew one thing: Tai Butian had indeed died in her previous life. He died 2 months before the destruction of Beyond the Heavens sect. If Wu Yunliang still insisted on the original plan, then the tragedy would most likely repeat itself. If Wu Yunliang gave up, then Beyond the Heavens sect would be destroyed even faster under Diwu Qingru's instigation, coupled with the heavy blows from the imperial court and the other sect. Moreover, they were already riding a tiger and had no way to back down. Beyond the Heavens sect and Ironcloud Nation had already established a relationship. Even if Wu Yunliang was not present, Li Jinsong could still be the representative. This way, it would be much easier to complete Diwu Qingru's plan. With Diwu Qingru's world-shaking planning ability, it would not be difficult to accomplish this. In fact, it would be a walk in the park. The reason why Diwu Qingru chose Beyond the Heavens sect was not only because of the above reasons, but also because Beyond the Heavens sect was the closest route from Great Jiao to Limitless Nation. Plus, this place had high mountains and dense forests. Even if 100,000 troops were hidden there, they would not be discovered. This was an extremely important strategic location. If Iron Cloud Nation was destroyed, Great Jiao would send troops from Iron Cloud. After passing through Beyond the Heavens sect, they would be able to invade Limitless Nation in less than 5 days. At that time, the other troops would also attack. Limitless Nation would not be able to hold on for more than a month before being destroyed. In other words, Diwu Qingru had arranged layers upon layers. With Beyond the Heavens sect, he had paved the way to unify the world. The specific plan was certainly not that simple. There were probably countless schemes, countless operations, and countless hidden plots. Chu Yang did not know about all of these, but Chu Yang knew that this was indeed how things developed in his previous life. The problem now was that Chu Yang clearly knew the direction of this entire matter, but he was powerless to do anything about it. He could not think of any way to stop it. Even if he said it, no one would believe him. Brother, if you went out and said, I came back from the year 2050, and the Earth was destroyed at that time, how many people on the street would believe you? I reckon that they would all call you a lunatic in unison. Moreover, could you stop the destruction of the Earth? Even if you knew when it was going to be destroyed, what could you do? Chu Yang was currently in this kind of situation. Right now, he was only an ordinary disciple of Beyond the Heavens sect. What ability did he have to reverse the fate of the millions of troops from 3 nations? For the first time, he had such a feeling: history could not be reversed. Even if he was reborn, it was only his own matter. It had nothing to do with others. History could not be reversed. Then, what about Qingwu? What to do? Could it be that after I was reborn, I still have to watch the tragedy happen before my eyes? At this moment, Chu Yang suddenly had a very clear and mysterious feeling. His spirit had unexpectedly advanced into a wonderful realm. If I don't change this matter, then it proves that history can't be changed. Those who deserved to die would still die. Even if he was reborn thousands of times, everyone had their own destiny, and it could not be reversed. If this matter could not be changed, then even Mo Qingwu's destiny could not be changed. At most, it could be brought forward or delayed by a few years. Just like Shi Qianshan, he would still die 4 years later. Now, he had only died 4 years earlier. As for Mo Qingwu, Chu Yang's rebirth might let her live a few more years, but she might also meet with misfortune in advance. These were all things that could not be predicted. But as long as the general trend of history did not change, Mo Qingwu would definitely not stay with Chu Yang for a lifetime. This was fate. It had its own destiny. No one could change it. This was a kind of enlightenment, and also the deepest understanding of the heavenly way. Chu Yang suddenly had an epiphany at this moment. History was the trajectory of the heavenly way. But it was this enlightenment that made him suddenly feel irritated and violent, and the bloody killing intent in his heart soared. If history could not be reversed, then did that mean Qingwu would still die? Chapter 37. Across from him, Wu Yunliang widened his eyes in shock. Just a moment ago, Chu Yang was quietly listening to him. But in the next moment, Chu Yang seemed to have entered a mysterious realm. He was clearly very close, but Wu Yunliang could not feel his presence. At this moment, Chu Yang's murderous aura rose to the extreme. Wu Yunliang stood up in shock and looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. He could no longer maintain his previous calmness. This kind of murderous aura made Wu Yunliang feel that under this kind of murderous aura, even if millions of people were slaughtered, Wu Yunliang would believe it. Chu Yang's murderous aura was like a tidal wave. He clenched his fists tightly, and his whole body emitted a dangerous aura. In his meridians, a bloodthirsty aura was surging like the tide of the sea. The murderous aura in his meridians rushed into his dantian like a tidal wave. It surged in his dantian like waves beating against the shore. At this moment, Chu Yang suddenly let out a low laugh. He forcefully withdrew his spirit from that mysterious realm. That was the realm of the heavenly path. The realm of the heavenly path that martial artists yearned to enter in their dreams. Chu Yang actually withdrew. Without any reluctance. A violent backlash came like a violent wave. Chu Yang's body shook. The deepest part of his spirit suddenly shook like a tsunami. Blood came out of his 7 orifices. Suddenly, his eyes shone brightly. He said fiercely, "Who said history cannot be reversed? Why must it be reversed? If the heavens do not accept it, the heavens will also be reverse." Wu Yunliang did not know why Chu Yang suddenly said these words. He could not help but stare blankly. But at this moment, in Chu Yang's dantian, the anger and murderous aura surged and suddenly exploded. An empty voice laughed and said, "Not bad, not bad. You've finally comprehended the foundation of the calamity sword. That is, the heavens can be reversed." At this moment, the cloudless sky suddenly rumbled. A huge thunderbolt seemed to carry the wrath of heaven and earth as it fiercely struck down. The dazzling white light of the lightning lit up the surrounding thousands of miles as if it was daytime. It was incomparably bright. The entire upper half of the mountain burst like a bubble. Millions of pieces of rock flew in all directions. In a moment, the mountain shook as if the end of the world had arrived. The cave where Chu Yang and Wu Yunliang were was turned into an open-air plaza. Wu Yunliang cried out in alarm and jumped up. He felt his scalp go numb, and his whole body was covered in cold sweat. He scratched his head in confusion, not knowing what was going on. Chu Yang clearly heard this voice coming from his dantian. His whole body couldn't help but tremble. He wanted to open his mouth to speak, but he didn't know what to say because he clearly heard this voice coming from his dantian. Or rather, it was a direct telepathic conversation. While he was still in a daze, the empty voice came again. "The heavens are nothing. Tear it apart. Break it. Fate was nothing. Change it. Go against it. History is nothing. Destroy it. Destroy it." Ha ha ha. This spiritual consciousness carried an indescribable arrogance, as well as an unruly arrogance that looked down on all the heavens and earth. Accompanied by the rumbling of thunder outside, there was even a sense of arrogance. Chu Yang's mind was shaken. He couldn't help but mutter, "Heaven is nothing. Tear it apart. Crush it. Fate is nothing. Change it. Go against it. History is nothing. Destroy it. Destroy it." He felt that these words were just right for him. This kind of arrogance, this kind of arrogance, this kind of unruly feeling, was the kind of feeling he wanted. The arrogant voice laughed and said, "You are right. If you want to change your fate, you have to change the trajectory of this world from now on. Go against it. Otherwise, even if you eat shit, you won't be able to eat it while it's still hot. If you can't reverse fate and history, then Mo Ching Wu will still die." Ha 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 ha. Chu Yang was shaken. He was about to speak when a confused voice said, "What are you talking about? What happened to you?" Chu Yang was startled. He looked up and saw Wu Yunliang looking at him with a face full of shock and confusion. Looking at his appearance, it was obvious that he didn't hear anything. When he carefully checked his dantian, he found that there was no movement at all. Everything that happened just now was like a dream, but Chu Yang clearly knew that this was not a dream. "I am fine." Chu Yang chuckled. He found that his whole body was sweating profusely. His clothes were wet as if he had just come out of the water. "Why are you suddenly in a daze? Why are you sweating so strangely? And you are bleeding from all your orifices? And what happened just now? Why did this kind of lightning appear? It blew up the entire mountain peak." Wu Yunliang looked up at the sky with some fear. Then he worriedly looked at Chu Yang. "Chu Yang, you don't have any hidden illness, do you?" Without waiting for Chu Yang to answer, he grabbed Chu Yang's wrist and used his martial energy to check. But after a careful examination, he did not find anything wrong with Chu Yang's body. He could not help but shake his head and said, "Strange. I don't know. Maybe I was too nervous when I was following those people and eavesdropping. Now I feel scared." Chu Yang tried to cover it up. That's possible," Wu Yunliang advised, "but don't be careless. If you feel anything wrong with your body, you must immediately tell your master. If your master doesn't know what to do, tell him to come find me. Chu Yang quickly agreed. Those words were still echoing in his mind. History can be reversed. Destiny can be reversed. Heaven can be reversed. If you want to change your destiny, then you must reverse it. Then I will reverse it. Chu Yang gritted his teeth. Reverse. Him. Mother. Of. Since he wants to reverse it, then how can he reverse it? Let's find another place to talk. Wu Yun Liang grabbed Chu Yang and flew out of the cave. The commotion just now was too big. There were already many people coming this way. The two of them walked around a few times before they found a suitable place to hide. Chu Yang felt a bit funny. He was following the sect master of Beyond the Heavens sect. He was moving around within the territory of Beyond the Heavens sect, but he felt like a thief. This kind of feeling was too wonderful for words. Did you hear what I said just now? Wu Yun Liang asked. What do you think? Chu Yang's mind started to work quickly. He remained silent for a long time without speaking. After a long while, he said thoughtfully, Martial Uncle sect leader, do you mean, since they want to stir up disputes, they should take this opportunity to unify the world? Then we should just go with the flow. Wu Yun Liang's eyes showed appreciation. He said, yes, continue. Chu Yang's mind turned quickly. He slowly said, once the two countries go to war, then we may have a chance. Or rather, Iron Cloud may have a chance. Sect Master Martial Uncle's meaning should be to find a foothold for Beyond the Heavens sect in this chaotic war. Yes. Wu Yun Liang's eyes showed even more appreciation. He said, there is a key person in this. This person is definitely not Diwu Qingru, but Tai Bu Tian. Chu Yang said, anyone can die, but Tai Bu Tian cannot. Yes. As long as Tai Bu Tian is here, with his prestige and methods, he can organize a military force to fight against Diwu Qingru. Protect Iron Cloud. Chu Yang said, then, even if the war ends and Great Zhao wins, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. If they want to annex Limitless Nation, they will not have the ability to do so. They will also have to worry about Limitless Nation taking the initiative to attack. This way, Diwu Qingru will not dare to act rashly. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.